in creating this new version of myself in this new life, I had to grieve people that were still alive. And I had to even grieve myself. Like a part of me died so that I could be who I am today.
Before we get started with today's episode, I do want to mention that this conversation does include potentially triggering topics such as sexual abuse, domestic violence, and addiction. So please honor your capacity if you choose to listen. I also want to apologize. There is a third guest, which is a fire alarm sounding off in the background of the whole episode. I try to take off as much as possible, but anytime that I speak, it's there. I truly hope it doesn't ruin your experience of the episode because Carlene's story is so powerful, so I hope you still choose to listen and that it's not too bad. Hola, you are listening to First Gen Healing, a podcast on Latinx healing and awakening journeys. My name is Priscilla Luna. I am the host, your intuitive prima, and I have a beautiful mujer as a guest today. She actually got in touch with me I think the beginning of this year, maybe even last year. So it's been a long time coming. But Carlene, welcome onto the podcast. How are you doing today?
Amazing. Thank you for having me, Priscilla.
Yeah, of course. You're joining us from the East Coast. You said Rhode Island. So
Woo-hoo,
how's the weather out
there?
Hey.
It's nice. It's nice. I mean, the good thing about Rhode Island is we get all 4 seasons, so we see it all.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. And do you get access to like the beach or no?
Yeah, it's like 45 minutes.
Okay, cool. Oh, nice. Okay, Carlene. So today I know we're going to talk about some real stuff. Like, as I was reading your story a little bit and hearing your story, you know, it reminded me of that card. I don't know if you like are familiar with tarot, but like the tower moment, where everything kind of okay. So tower moments are usually where you're faced with a lot of different things and it all kind of comes down or crumbles, right? Or like in the movie Encanto, where the house burns down or falls down. Yeah.
My daughter loves that.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Yeah. So you're familiar with that moment where it's like we're seeing cracks in the house and then it all kind of comes down. And that's what I thought of. Like, and I'm appreciative that you're open to talk about those moments porque I feel like those are really hard. And I think usually when we're there, we actually lose a lot of words. And it's not until we come out on a different side, right, that we're able to speak on it. So before we get into that, I would love to know maybe what is something that's been popping up for you right now? Like what's been in your experience, what's been alive in your life?
What's been alive? So I'm a very active person, right? And I was playing basketball this past week. I play in a women's league and I injured my knee. So it's very different because I have a brace on and like I've had to slow down. And you know, like as a first gen, we don't slow down. Like we just keep going and keep going. So like I'm learning to appreciate slowing down without feeling like I'm falling behind. Right? So I'm resting. Like I was like, let me go to the gym and just do upper body. And I'm like, no, like let me just be comfortable where I am, right? And learning to trust that like sometimes our alignment is doing less so that we can become more, or slowing down so we can do more. So that's kind of what's been present because it's so immediate for me right now.
Yeah. Woo! You're naming something that I think probably 90% of people listening struggle with. That even when life is like, slow down, we're like, no.
No, I got it.
Yeah. No, I can. Yeah. Like, I'm okay. I feel better. Okay. So slowing down. And what has been something that, is it like, do you feel like you're working with your mind, with your body? What's helping you reroute and be okay with the slowness?
You know, part of the journey is just being. So like learning to just be still, you know, like like I would usually fill my time with something else, right? And I think we learn to move past that feeling because it's a feeling, right? It's an emotion, it'll pass by just sitting in it. So it's very uncomfortable. So like,
Yeah.
just what am I doing? I'm like not doing anything. I have to go find something else to do. But just like sitting in that discomfort, it's not normal for me, right? For
Yeah.
most of us, I think. But just
Yeah.
sitting in it gets easier every single time because we
Yeah.
deserve it.
Okay. Yeah. We do. And life was not supposed to be at 100 miles per hour. Pero I'm glad that you're
Yes.
getting that glimpse of what it can be like to slow down, and that it's okay, because sometimes I'll route us into your story in a second, but I feel like in a lot of the sessions that I have, it's like I'm so tired of work, I can't wait to rest. Then I have an opportunity to rest and I like feel like I need to be productive, and so it's this like never ending cycle where people don't truly get rest. So I think it's important, like it's cool that you bring that up, porque sí, I'm sure there are some people right now
Same.
listening that are getting those signals, but they're like, no, I can't stop. And the reality is we can. It's just sometimes it's really like mental, right? Like a belief system that
Yes.
we have. So yeah, but okay, I'm gonna let you maybe guide us in wherever you want to start with your story. In your intake form, you kind of put like the moment where it all kind of crumbled and rising from that. So where do you want to take us first so that we get to know your story?
Yes, yes. And it's funny because I first started listening to your podcast when I started like my healing journey. And
Mm.
I'm Cape Verdean American. So, my family's from the west coast of Africa, but I grew up, I'm from a small city called Central Falls, Rhode Island. It's a small city in a small state, but we're also one of the most densely populated cities in the country, right? Like we have maybe
Okay.
like 25,000 people in a square mile. And
Mm.
it's predominantly Latinx, right? So like 80%, we have over 100 ethnicities, like in our little square mile. It's crazy.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So the Cape Verdean community is very similar to the
Mm.
Latin community, and my friends were like, they used to give me Spanish books growing up because I'm like, like we're family. So they used
Yeah.
to teach me,
Aw.
and I understand. That's why I understand it, because like that's the community we grew up in. But there's so many similarities between the both communities, right? So that's why I
Okay.
reached out to you, because it your stories and the guests you had on made me feel less alone, right? And I was like, I wish we had more of these conversations. So that's why, like, I tell people I almost died in silence. So now I heal out loud, so other people can see that they're not alone. So I just want to say
Yeah.
thank you for like creating this space for people
Oh my gosh.
across the country,
Of course.
like me.
Wow. Okay. I feel like that's probably one of the roots of why I started the podcast, because I felt really alone in that, like, in the rebirth moment. So wow, thank you. Thank you for sharing that,
Yes.
and that, yeah, it got to you. How cool, how amazing. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So 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 just some background about my story. So growing up in a Cape Verdean household, we didn't talk about much, right? Like we didn't talk about mental health. We didn't talk about finances. Like money wasn't a thing that parents talked to us about. Like everything,
I
if it wasn't anything good or things to like show off in the outside, we didn't talk about, right? Like everything
Okay.
stayed inside the house in the casa, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and I'm first gen. My mom was a teenage mother. She had 2 kids with her first husband, and then me and my sister with my dad. And she always taught us to like just be strong. My mom is a very strong woman, and I
Mm.
admire her in so many ways. But that strength also came with like a side of silence. And it started for me, that silence and isolation started very young. So I was sexually
Mm.
abused as a child. Now I openly talk about it, but I didn't open up until I was probably 30, right? I'm 35
Okay.
now.
Wow.
So it took me
Yeah.
a while to open up because I didn't feel comfortable going to an adult at that time, right? And I just
Mm-hmm.
acted out in different ways. Like in middle school, like I was I was skipping school and smoking cigarettes, and my grades started to tank, and nobody noticed. Like, I went from straight A's to like C's, right?
Yeah.
And we just kind of like, just she's having a moment. She'll be okay. And just keep it moving, right?
Yeah, because there's not
And
those conversations, right? Of like
yeah,
checking in and like, how are you doing? And I've noticed that you're changing or that something's different. Did you also experience though, we don't talk, but we talk a lot. Like our families talk a lot, but it's not about maybe the things that matter inside the house. Maybe it's about other
right,
people, about,
right.
right? Like, so
We
like there's
focus
a
on
lot of
everything else.
communication. Yeah, yeah. So you had this similar
Yeah,
experience because like it's so interesting thinking back. I'm like, no, yeah, there was, at least in my family, there was a lot of conversation, just never really about maybe what I would have helped me, or like the internal
yes.
system of family. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Right. And
Yeah.
we got together, huge family. Like my grandfather had 34 kids. Right. And that's not even
Wow.
the extent of like my closer family to me.
34
So
kids. Oh my gosh.
34, girl, he was
Wow.
busy.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's
Okay.
also like that patriarchal, you know, that we come from. Right. And there was a
Yeah.
lot of like, like incest and abuse in the family. And it was just like,
Mm.
maybe like we don't talk about it. Maybe my ancestors went through that, but like, they never talked about it. So
Yeah.
and until you do, it just keeps getting passed on. Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
So just growing up, I just kept pushing myself. What do we do? Like we bury ourselves in school. So like, I graduated number 2 in my class. I went off to like
Mm.
Georgetown University. I went to a great school. And I kept achieving and doing more to make up for like things that I lacked inside of me, right? Like trying to
Mhm.
search for that love in other places because I wasn't getting it from my parents, and
Yeah.
I didn't know what it meant to love myself. So I was just, just moving through the world that way.
Yeah. Yeah, the
And
validation that you're doing a good
yes,
job. Yeah, from the outside.
right, the people pleasing. I'll talk about that in detail, but
Yeah.
so I moved back to Rhode Island after school, and I worked for a while, same thing, like just it turned into work, then I started
Mhm.
doing those same patterns at work, like of trying to prove myself and doing more and waiting for someone to like, give me a pat on the back.
Yeah.
And then I had my daughter. So I got into a relationship. My daughter's 6 now. Her name's Raina. I named her actually after my college
Ooh.
roommate, who's Raina. um,
Mm.
and after I got into that relationship and it turned physical. It was like emotionally abusive and then turned physically abusive. And I just found myself at rock bottom and I turned to drugs and alcohol.
Mm.
I had like been dabbling and
Mm.
I knew I always had a drinking problem. It runs in my blood, literally. Like I don't know about your
Mm.
family, but like we are raging alcoholics over here.
Oh, yeah.
So, and that's
So
not
you
something like
saw it
people,
growing up. Yeah, you
oh
saw
yeah.
like alcohol was a yeah. And that's the thing,
Yeah.
right? Like it's also not talked about. I mean, like it's seen but not heard or not talked about. So quick question. So you were kind of like this high achieving person or someone that achieved, and then you started to experience this toxic relationship. Had you been also had you witnessed something like that in the past? Like was this something that was normalized for you or it was something you hadn't experienced?
No, no, like I've never
Okay.
seen like that type of abuse in my life.
Okay.
So it's something new. Um, and for a while, like I justified it as like, love or, it has to be
Mm.
tough, right? Like things can't just be easy for us. Like there has to be like
Mm.
a battle for us to
Right.
to, to get
To
something,
stick it
right?
out and continue and make it through. Yeah. Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I went through that period of my life. Like I said, I turned to drugs and alcohol, and that's when I started isolating. Like I stayed away. My family's huge. I started
Mm.
staying away from them. I would only be around them when I was drinking, and it turned into this cycle, right? And it
Mhm.
got so bad that like it didn't happen all at once. Like it just crept its way in, like life happens.
Okay. Yeah.
And And I even overdosed in front of my daughter. Like that was a moment that like I couldn't unsee, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
or she couldn't unsee. But that didn't even stop me from using, like it took a
Okay.
while for me to stop. But I finally like just came to a realization. I said, I can't keep living like this, or I was not going to
Mm-hmm.
make it, or it's not sustainable. Like I couldn't keep doing this. And I don't know if it's through the grace of God. It has to be. But one day I tell people I didn't even wake up. I didn't go to sleep that night because I was on a binge. And I just told myself, I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. And I finally like sought out help. Right. And
Wow. From
so
one day
now
to
I go,
another.
yes, yes.
Okay.
So, like now in AA meetings, like Alcohol Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, people are like, oh, yeah, like their family recommended them to a place or something. Our family
Mm-hmm.
doesn't go to like therapy or like these
Mm.
meetings. Like my family has no idea what AA is or what it does or, see themselves in therapy. So I
Mm.
felt I didn't know where to seek help. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something
Mm-hmm.
that I tried to break that cycle now is like having people that look like us, like know that there is help available. Right.
Yeah.
Just because we don't know, like I didn't know all these supports were out here.
Can I ask, prior to you being like, okay, I need to shift this, how did you experience seeing yourself? Because I think you were used to seeing yourself as an achiever. I got this, I'll get through this, whatever is thrown your way. Do you feel like it was like a shame cycle that started when you started to experience yourself in a way that maybe you weren't used to? Or like how do you go from being like, I go to school, I'm a hard worker, to then witnessing yourself as going through like not only abusing the relationship, but then you kind of abusing your body, through
Mm-hmm.
substances and things like that.
Yes, absolutely. Um, the thing is, Priscilla, I think especially in women and women of color and, communities of color, we function. We function through depression. We function through
Mm-hmm.
trauma, through substance use. Like I was functioning, like I had a
Mm.
great job. And I was just functioning. I couldn't stop being a mom,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
I wasn't the best mom. I wasn't the best employee, but I showed up and I did what I had to do. So for a lot of people, they had no idea what I was even going through. And I think that's part of
Wow.
the scary part of it. It's like
Yeah.
I was a walking red flag to myself, right? But
Right.
maybe not to other people because I still showed up and I did what I had to
Mm-hmm.
do in life.
I
And I think
see.
that's dangerous too.
Yeah. Okay. So do you think your loved ones had an idea or not either? Or like they're like, "Oh, she's just having a hard time," and dismissing it. What was
Uh,
that like?
I think they didn't know the severity of it. I think they knew what was
Okay.
up. Something
Mhm.
was not okay. They knew I was drinking. Some people knew about the drug use, but even to today, like I still don't think because I was so functioning, I think people didn't
Mhm.
still don't understand the severity of like where I was. Like I was in
I
a really
see.
bad place.
Yeah. Okay. That's such a weird experience too, right? Like for people to not like to know you but not really know cuz only you witnessed it, I guess. I remember at some point I posted like this is what a depressed anxious first gen looks like, and it's me smiling in all of these pictures and at dinners, right? And like the reality is I was going through such a hard time, so I think like I resonate and I can relate on that end. um I'm wondering too, you mentioned you overdosed, and I feel like did how did you internalize that when you went through that? Do you feel comfortable sharing? Like you wake
Yeah.
up, or did you wake up in a hospital? How did that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell the story like it's crazy because people think like when you overdose, like you're short of breath. And for me, like, I don't know what it was. It was like God, but I was alone in the house with my daughter, and something just told me to get my Narcan, which is like the overdose reversal. And I used it on myself because I had taken like not only like alcohol, cocaine, fentanyl was mixed in it, but I also had like sleeping pills. Like it was a bad combo.
Okay.
And I had bumped my head. I fell, like I fell, I bumped my head, and it was through the grace of God that I was able to like get up and do that. But I remember going to the hospital, and I told my mom like something like I fell down the stairs or something doing laundry. Mind you, it's midnight, right? And like, and that's another thing. Like my mom, she just like, okay, like
Didn't question
so
it or yeah.
yeah. So then I went to the hospital, and them too. Like they, like I don't know. For me, it was like something's going on here, but they don't press too much. They just make sure I was okay. And I went to go pick up my daughter and came back home. She would stay at my mom's, came back home, and like just repeated the cycle. Like it was just something that happened.
Yeah. So like
yeah.
your next day was kind of like, okay, keep going. Next day.
Keep going. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. And that's the power of addiction. Some people, I tell people, who wants to wake up and like just ruin their whole lives, and their family's lives. Like nobody wants to do that. But addiction tricks the brain into this is the one thing that matters, and that's it. Right. And I think it's really important in our communities to talk about it because it affects us. We're functioning. Like, I have a lot of functioning alcoholics, and men in my family, like that's what they do. But they show up to work, they show up early to work, and they do what they have to do. But that doesn't mean they're still not functioning alcoholics, right?
Right. You were functioning at work. Were your relationships functioning? Like, do you feel like part of it was that you felt alone because you were alone or because you felt alone? Like you felt like I don't have an outlet? I guess maybe looking back, what was reality versus what you were experiencing, or how do you see it looking back?
I think at that time, like I mentioned, with my relationship, I had isolated a lot of people in my life, right? Because he wanted me isolated. So like I would always like hang out with him or be in the house. And so when I started using, I was using with my best friend, right? And it was like us against the world. And I felt, and this may not have been the truth, right? But I felt like people didn't understand me. Like for a long time, I felt like people didn't understand me or what I was going through, or even just me as a human, right? But I didn't know myself, and I'll talk about this. I didn't know myself as a human, right? And so how can other people understand me if I myself don't understand myself? Right. So I felt like I didn't have an outlet. Like I didn't have a therapist. I didn't have somebody to talk to. So I just internalized it, and using was working for me. Right. Like the drugs and alcohol, when I was in that abusive relationship, like I was so depressed, and the drugs and alcohol reversed that. So like it does something for you, because why else would you continue using if it wasn't quote unquote helping you? So while it did something for me, it got to a point where then it became destructive. And I didn't want people to I think like we have this thing that we don't want to burden other people. Right. I was very much like that. People can dump all their stuff on me. Right. I'll take it. I'll handle it, move forward. I'm the person people come to for anything. But I was never that person to other people. Like I was never going to be a burden to you.
I see. Yeah. Oof. All the things, how they stack up and we don't even realize it. I mean, like, yeah, not knowing how to ask for help, not knowing that you don't even know yourself, right? Like that is something that I think comes after when you start to want to get out of where you find yourself. Not knowing that you're kind of closing doors because you're assuming that they wouldn't understand, that they don't have the time for you, the space for you, so things like that. And thank you for naming them, because I think like it's good to see how it's just different factors that then all kind of come together and create that tower moment, or that like moment of like everything crumbles down. So it sounds like, you decided to get back up. Okay, like I need better. I deserve better for myself, or I need to do something different. what does that actually like look like on a day-to-day or feel like, because I can't imagine actually taking all of these factors and wanting to shift them, because it's not like a switch. You don't just turn it on. Okay, cool. And let's change the chapter. So yeah, walk us through some of the things that stand out to you in those moments.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll name a couple. So one thing was seeking help, like going out to, it was an outpatient program that I did. So I went from like 9 to 3 every day for a couple of weeks. And I learned skills like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Like our thoughts matter, right? Like things that we don't necessarily think about. Like I learned about like self-care and really negating my negative thoughts and patterns. I tell people we learn these behaviors over decades, right? So it's really hard to unlearn all of that in a week, in a month. So we have to give ourselves grace as we're going through that journey, because it took us a long, long time to learn these patterns, right? And some of those patterns are generational. So that's even harder to break because it's in our DNA.
Isn't that kind of crazy that like not only are our thoughts coded, sometimes I think, let's say when we're feeling sad, maybe the posture that we gravitate towards, we don't realize, but sometimes that's generational. And then that posture causes pain, right? Chronic pain. I don't know. I think that's mind blowing, because I've found myself like, whoa, sometimes maybe I sit like my mom does. And I'm like, oh, and then her shoulder hurts and my shoulder's starting to hurt, and like, then you tie it to emotions, like she played this role and now I'm playing this role. So how cool that these programs like started to open your eyes to that stuff. And were you still in the relationship when you were going through this? Okay.
No. So I ended the relationship. As soon as I entered the program, I started my sobriety, and everything started shifting for me when I walked into those meetings in those places and I didn't feel alone, because trauma isolates you, right? Like, especially as a little kid going through like being sexually abused, and not imagine holding a secret in for 20 something years. That is, you hold that in every inch cell in your body. You can't escape that. Like what we don't express, we suppress. So it like slowly ate away at my soul. And so then it's easier to hide and cover other things, right, that come into your life and make you like consume this shame and guilt. So I had to let that go. I even have a mother wound, and that's another thing we don't talk about in our community either. Like I said, I love my mother to death, but she wasn't emotionally available for me because she didn't know how. She still doesn't know, right? But I put that boundary there. So she's a person that also has mental illness. So she wasn't there for me the way that I needed a mother to be there. So I felt like I was carrying the world on my shoulders by myself. And when I went into those rooms and I heard I wasn't alone, other people experienced the same thing. I tell people there's nothing in this world that another person has not experienced. Like you may not have met them, but there's someone in this planet that has gone through something very similar to what you have. So not feeling alone, just like I said with this podcast, feeling like you're not alone, no matter where you are.
Wow. So it gave you community in a sense. That was one of the first. Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
And then the last thing I'll mention is that I started to learn myself, right? I tell people masking isn't something that I did, but I wasn't really living my life. I didn't know myself, right? To live my life fully or like, in alignment. So it wasn't until I got sober and I started learning some of these skills and tools. Like we're not taught self-care. Who teaches us self-care? It doesn't come from school. It doesn't come from your family. Like who teaches us to love ourselves? Right. So I started to spend time alone. Like and now I have breakfast by myself every single day. That's just something that I do to set that intention and be by myself. So I started like I started showing up and going to the gym. So going to the gym every single day, no matter how I felt, because every time that I showed up, it gave me a little bit more confidence. Right? People who
Mm,
experience trauma, it takes our confidence away. So like just doing like one simple thing that gives us that back, uh,
yeah.
makes us have more control of our bodies, of our minds, of our thoughts. So I
Mm-hmm.
started like going to the gym and building this gym community, and
Mm,
learning who I was, and like really like being at peace and liking myself and being alone.
yeah.
And I love being
Yeah.
alone now.
Yay! It's I think, such an important part of the journey. Like, I think, society maybe makes it seem like success is being with friends and like having this big community and having this big family. But the reality is that, like, when you don't know yourself and when, like, you named masking and you don't know that, sometimes you need some space away from all of that to learn, like, who am I really? What do I really stand for? What do I need to say, or what did I need from people, even like from your mom, right? Sometimes we're so
Mhm.
tied to the conditioning of like you only have one mom, you have to be grateful, you have to love your mom, and like, yes,
Uh-huh.
and I get to separate myself from that and be like, this is one of the most close to me relationships that I have. What has it taught me? What is it missing? Because sometimes what we learn in those very close relationships we then carry through in others, right? And it's not always
Yes.
the healthiest. So you named, for example, emotional unavailability. That's so interesting. I think, like, so as someone who's navigated her own mother wound, it takes a long time to recognize. And I love this book called Discovering Your Inner Mother, I think it's called.
Hmm.
It's about the mother wound. It's not about being your mom, but like it is about reparenting yourself a little bit. But it
Yes.
talks about how a lot of people who are really self-aware, that like to intellectualize, we sometimes leave the mother wound to one of the last things we tap into unconsciously or
Yes.
subconsciously, because it's really hard to like face that,
Hmm.
and then grieve that and things like that. Um,
Yes.
but one of the things that I want to ask you about is discipline, or like, how did you hold yourself accountable? Because you go from all of these patterns that are working against you, and then you find new ones that are that, you start getting glimpses of like, oof, these serve me in positive ways. But I feel like a lot of people have a hard time being consistent, or if they come from a place of perfection, then, building guilt and shame around that. Like, oh, well, since I didn't do it today, I might as well not do it tomorrow, and then getting back in a rut. So I'm wondering, what was that experience for you? Have you been able to be consistent? Have there been the ups and downs? Like, what has that been like?
Yeah. Um, this is a good question. And you mentioned grieving, right? And
Mm-hmm.
part of me, and I think coming from like like a poor inner city, there's a part of us that like always wants to like honor where we live, where we are, and our families, but then
Mm-hmm.
also like grow. And
Yeah.
sometimes you can't do both, right? So
Mm.
in creating this new version of myself in this new life, I had to grieve people that were still alive. And I had to even grieve myself. Like a part of me died
Mm.
so that I could be who I am today. So, and especially as a person in sobriety, there's no, oh, let me do half of this and half of that, right? It's
Mm, yeah.
all it's
Oof.
all or nothing, because
Yeah.
that's my life, right? It only takes one drink of alcohol or one line for me to like just revert back, right?
Mm,
So
yeah.
so that's what discipline is for me. It's I don't have a choice. I have to show up every single day, right? Every single day I have to show up and be my best self. And sometimes my best self is 1%, right? Sometimes
Mm,
I'm giving 130%. But I know I have to put my best foot forward every single day. And God has been uh like I'm a very spiritual person. Like I turned to religion again in my life when I got sober, and that's been like the cornerstone of my life is my spirituality
Okay.
and gratitude and tapping into that, because without
Mm-hmm.
that, I'm nothing. And I also like teach my daughter that. And then I
Mm.
go to the gym. So like I say, it's God and the gym, my two G's. So I go to the gym every single day. And that's a non-negotiable for me because I need movement. Like if I'm not moving my body, I have ADHD. I didn't talk about my mental. I live with anxiety, depression, PTSD, and ADHD. And for me, I have
Mm.
to move, right? I have to like
Mm-hmm.
move my body because when I'm in the gym, everything else like it evaporates, right? Like I
Mm.
walk out of the gym feeling amazing every single time. So I have
Yeah.
to go to the gym every day. Like that's my discipline. And I have to be in my spiritual place every single day. Like those are my non-negotiables. So like people like, do I want to go to the gym every single day? No. Right. But it's literally like I make it part of my routine. I schedule it. So I drop off my daughter at school and I know that's my next stop. There's no
Mm.
detour, there's no nothing.
Yeah.
It just happens, you know? Like I make no excuses for the gym and God.
I guess two questions. Maybe you can choose which one you want to talk about. Two of the things
Mhm.
came up. One is what did grieving look like for you? Letting a piece of you die, what does that actually feel like, look like, what to practice? Or what does spirituality give you? How does that connection serve you? Or how do you interpret it in a way that makes you keep going?
I'll answer the second question about my spirituality, because it's helped me in ways that I can't even explain. And I think
Mhm.
as a first gen, as someone who feels like they have this torch to carry and so much like, on their shoulders, I
Yeah.
have an issue with control, right?
Okay.
I like to be in
Mhm.
control,
Yeah.
because that's what's worked for me in life. Like it has, it's gotten
Mhm.
me, open a lot of doors. Um, and I work hard. Like I legit, like my work ethic is ridiculous. But in my spiritual journey, I've had to surrender. I've had to
Mm.
surrender a lot and say that, it's not mine to carry. Even with my mother wound, with my sexual abuser, right? With my in the previous relationship I had, I've had to release those people, and I've had to give what was theirs to carry back to them, right? And that takes a lot.
Mm.
Like whether it's like forgiveness or just placing that responsibility back to them. I think
Mhm.
my spirituality has guided me to do that and to not
Okay.
carry that weight. And I think oftentimes we carry a lot of weight that's not ours to carry, that burden. And
Mhm.
just being able to say I'm more than what has happened to me, and
Mhm.
also appreciate the things that have happened in my life. Like I tell everyone, I would not take any part of my story away because it made me the person that I am today. And I wouldn't be the
Mm.
mother to my daughter, the mother that I am to my daughter now. Um, and it just reminds me that I'm on the right path, that this is my calling, this is my what God, the universe intended for me to do, is like share my story and be a healer and be that cycle breaker in my family.
Mhm.
So I always have to surrender to that and know that life is constantly changing and adapting, and I'm constantly growing. Like we're all growing beings, and saying like I don't have to do it all on my own, right? Like
Okay.
we're humans and spiritual beings, and we're meant to be in community and meant to share space, and the more that you share and you tell your story and you release your burdens, the less heavy it is. I think that's what
Mm.
my spirituality has taught me.
Can I ask you, I don't know if it would be a tricky question, but in your spirituality, do you place blame strictly on the people that hurt you? Do you think spirituality also takes you through trials to then alchemize them into purpose. What's your perspective on it? What meaning do you give it, or how
Yes.
do you internalize it?
Yes. I think sometimes struggles are exactly what we need in our lives, right? Because, like they say, if you want patience, right? The universe isn't going to give you like no lines. He's not going to like,
Yeah.
they're not going to like, you're not going to have no lines. They're going to give you lines so that we're able to build our patience that way, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
universe gives us, may give us the opposite so that we can go through the process. And I think the process and the journey is really what makes everything worth it in the end, right? And in
Okay.
terms of blame, instead of Oprah has that book, What Happened to You? So, instead of saying like what's wrong with you, you say like what happened to you. And I've gotten to
Mm.
a point where I understand like most people who become sexual abusers probably were sexually abused, at one
Mm.
point. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not to like say like something is right or wrong, but I have the maturity and the bandwidth to understand generational trauma, to understand like mental illness, right? Like that's a real
Mm-hmm.
thing and people behave different ways because of my struggles and things that I've done, like quote unquote, out of character. I give people so much more grace than I ever used to. And like judgment
Mm.
isn't something like, we all judge, but it's not something that I hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
I lead with acceptance and kindness and expecting the best, not assuming the worst when it comes to
Okay.
people.
Yeah.
And that's helped me in my journey.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for expanding on that. I think it like holds a lot of different aspects, and I just feel like it's probably tricky, right? When you are going through the hard parts and then to want to believe in something or someone greater than us and then be like, well, if they existed, I wouldn't be going through this at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like, yeah, that's an internal shift or move, something you need to move through and make sense of, for everyone make sense of for their own. But it sounds like for you it's like a couple of different things, right? It's one, like knowledge, knowing, and like you said,
Mm-hmm.
bandwidth. I love that, having a different bandwidth of understanding the background of people and their actions and things like that. Also surrender, and just like as well as recognizing who it made you and that you appreciate
Mm-hmm.
who you are. So um what is one part of you that you've gained because of all of this that you love?
Mm. What have I gained?
Because sometimes it feels like a lot of loss, right? When things crumble.
Yeah.
But there's also the other aspect, duality always.
Yes. I think what I've gained is, and I haven't really talked about my daughter, but she's a huge part of my
Mm,
story,
yeah.
is I am now the person that I wish I had as a little girl, right? Like I'm that person that's safe, that's trusting, that's responsible, that's intuitive. Um,
Mm,
so like I'm very thankful for that. Like I do a lot of workshops and I tell folks
mm,
as we're working on emotional wellness to write two letters. One to your your 8-year-old self or your 10-year-old self, right? Writing a letter to them. But also
yeah.
the most powerful one that I've done is I wrote a letter. My 10-year-old self wrote a letter to me now. And so baby Carlene like would
Woo!
write a letter to me and she's
Yeah.
like gushing out like look at where you are now, because I think like we're so hard on ourselves. And if we can only like see the growth through like a little kid's eyes, like it's just amazing. So for anyone who's
Wow.
like going through their journey, I recommend those two activities. Um,
Yeah.
but knowing that I'm the cycle breaker in my family, right? Like being first gen, it often felt like we had to carry everyone else's dreams and, like my mother didn't go to school. So now
Expectations.
I have to, and I have to do X, Y, and Z, right? And
Yeah.
what this journey has taught me was that I'm allowed to dream as well for myself. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm allowed to be both a continuation of my ancestors and a creator. I get to create what my future, what my lineage is like, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I say the addiction stops with me because that ran in my family, right? Like suicide runs like a lot in my family. Like that stops with me,
Mm.
and that people pleasing, the silence, the unspoken pain, the trauma cycles, like that's all stopping with me. And I'm planting different seeds. And I think like
Mm.
part of our journey is not only like stopping those behaviors and creating boundaries, but what else are we creating? So like I gentle parent. And me and my mom still argue about that to this day because she's like, "You let her do whatever she wants, and we didn't raise you guys like that, and all this stuff." And I'm like, "Good, because she's not your child." And I said, "I tell her, look how we
Yeah.
turned out." um,
Yeah.
emotional language and boundaries, how I talk to her, and and meeting her where she is, right? Like that softness
Mm.
starts with me. So
Yeah.
I'm not only breaking those patterns, but I'm building generational wellness as well.
Wow. Ah! I love that so much. I
Yeah.
love it so much that you're like, you know what? I get to dream what it looks like to carry that torch, you know? Sometimes we're handed
Yes.
one that's like not the right one for us. And it's okay to put that down and be like, look, this is my version of it, you know? And I choose to own that and I choose to carry that. So that's so powerful. Thank you
Yes.
so much. Wow. Woo,
Yeah.
I'm
I
fired up.
told I told my daughter my daughter said something to me the other day. She's like, "Mommy, you love yourself more than me." And I said, "Yeah, you're right. I do. I love myself more than anybody in this world." And I said, "You should too." I said, "Because where we
Mm.
come from, we have to put everybody else ahead of us. No, 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 not anymore." So I tell people it's
Yeah,
selfish when you don't put yourself first, because then you're not your best version, the best version of yourself for other people in your life. Because
right.
I put myself first, I invest in myself, I can show up as the best mother to my daughter. If I
Yeah.
wasn't doing that, I
Oh,
couldn't.
yeah. Woo! What an
So,
interesting observation from her, right? And I wonder,
yeah.
like you said, you're planting seeds. So I wonder how that's going to grow in her. Like, okay, what does it mean to love myself more than anyone else? That's so cool.
Yes.
How exciting. Woo! Okay, so you mentioned you do workshops. I would love to give you a moment to share a little bit about what you do, you know, what this has turned into for you, because coming from or going through what you did and then turning it into purpose is so beautiful, so powerful. So tell us where people can find you, what you do, what's your work like. Share with us.
Yes, absolutely. So I just moved full time to working on my business. It's called The Greatest You Consulting, because I believe everyone
Mm,
needs to be their greatest self. And that looks
yeah.
different for all of us. So I do that through workshops. I work off of the 8 dimensions of wellness. So whether that's physical wellness, emotional wellness,
Mm,
social wellness, because tell people if you're financially stressed out, right, chances are emotionally you're gonna be stressed out as well. So
mhm.
I go through a series of workshops with all the dimensions, and people are like, "Oh, I thought wellness was only physical." Right, but no, it's
Right.
environmental, it's who we have around us, it's social, it's occupational, right? Most people hate their jobs. So I help people see that and then work through it. um
Okay.
and then I do speaking engagements as well, like anywhere from like I'm working with high school students now, all the way up to
Mm,
corporate. And then I have wellness products. So I have a journal. I created this journal
okay.
because instead of a therapist, when I was going through my hard times, I used to journal. And so I created like a 5 minute like daily journal that you do. And I have
Mm,
inspirational calendar and workbooks as well to like help us work through our trauma. So
yeah.
I'm really in the business of giving people tools to become a better version of themselves, right? And accept
Okay.
themselves
Mhm.
fully and wholly. So I love the work that I do. I'm so passionate about it. And I tell people it helps me. Like when I'm in
Yeah.
those workshops and stuff, it helps me with my mental wellness. It helps me with my life and my recovery.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't, like, I work hard, but I'm so passionate about it, and like I'm just happy. I'm like really in a good place in my life. And I'm like so thankful for my experiences because I wouldn't be that way otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Um,
How
but
has it been?
yeah.
How long have you been working with people, like coaching and things like that?
So and all I didn't mention this, but all the work that I do, it's in community. So I don't do any one-on-one
Okay.
workshops or
Mm-hmm.
anything because I truly believe that healing happens in community. Right? Like
Okay.
trauma
Mm-hmm.
isolates you. So that feeling less alone and I don't have all the answers, right? I'm a facilitator. I bring people together and we learn from each other, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
power of our own stories. Everyone has a story to tell. So the more that
Mm-hmm.
we share and we're open, the more connection, the more human we feel, and people want to
Mm-hmm.
just be better. So I do everything in community. I've been I've been working on my business for 5 years now, but like I said, I just went full time this past year. And
Okay.
you can find me on Instagram. My name is Heal with Carlene or Greatest You Consulting. Yeah,
Cool. Do you have a website?
I do. It's
Okay.
greatestyouconsulting.com.
Okay, cool. I'll make sure to include that in the description. But that's such an interesting and cool approach, like that you only do group work. I've
Yes.
dabbled in both, and I like kind of like you said, I love the aspect of community, bringing people together. I think it's I used to tell like the community I hosted, like it's cool that, or it's amazing that you guys resonate with what I say. Now I want you to hear other people that are just like you, and that are saying it too. Like when you get that echo back, it's so powerful. So that's beautiful. Okay. So
Okay.
just to maybe wrap up part one, I would love to ask you a couple of resource questions if you're open to that. Like maybe
Yes,
your
I
favorite
love that.
book. Yay. Okay. So for example, that like what is a book or a podcast or a movie, algo, something that
Mm,
is powerful to you, that inspires you?
yes. Um, One book that I love is What My Bones Know,
Ooh,
by
okay.
Stephanie Foo, Foo, and she talks about complex PTSD and that mother wound. And she grew up in California, but she talks about her experience as a first generation person. So
Okay.
I really recommend that book, What My Bones Know.
My both now.
And
Okay.
podcasts, I love podcasts. I don't know if Claim Your Power. So have you heard the Claim Your
Mm.
Power
No, I
podcast?
haven't. Mm-mm, but I'll
She's
write it
like
down.
she's younger than me, but she's into like manifestation and knowledge, and she's awesome.
Okay.
Yes, Claim Your Power.
Claim your power. What about your favorite mindful practice?
Just like thinking about three things you're grateful for, like every single
Mm,
morning, whether you're writing it down or saying it in your head. Three things that you're grateful for every single day. And it just shifts your perspective. If you're having a bad day, think about three things you have to be grateful for. Like, I'm grateful for my legs. I'm so grateful for my knee right now because it's injured. I'm grateful for my hands, my brain that keeps me moving. I'm thankful to have like this beautiful roof over my head, like things that we don't necessarily think about.
yeah.
We all have things to be grateful for.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. What about quote or advice that you love or refer back to?
I'll always say, I'm a sports girl. I played basketball in my life, and you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So you can
Mm,
apply this to business, to relationships, to your job, anything in life, right? Like if you don't apply to that job, you're never going to get it. There's not even a 0%
true.
chance, right? But if you do apply, at least you have a 1% chance, right? Like if you see somebody and like, oh, like I want to get to know that person. If you don't try, 0%. So I always tell people, like, just take your shot in anything that is in life.
Okay. Yes, so true. Ooh, okay. This is a new one that I've been asking. If you could give the listeners either a journal prompt or question for them to ponder on,
I
do
love
you have
this.
one? Right? I don't
Yes.
know. I feel like this would be so cool.
Yes. No, that's awesome. Um, so one thing I always do in workshops, in certain workshops, is I have people draw. I love like it's a napkin, but I love like being creative. So I tell people to like envision their perfect day, draw it out. What does it look like? What are you doing? Who are you with? And then what does it feel like, sound like? How you starting your day, ending your day? So like just visualize that, and then ask yourself what gets in the way of living like that more often. Maybe it's a habit, a belief, a person, boundaries that we need to shift. Like what can we do to bring ourselves closer to that? And that allows you to like really gain perspective, because a lot of people know they're not where they want to be, or are doing what they want to do, or with who they want to be, but we don't envision the other side of it. What does the other side of it look like? Or we don't give ourselves permission to dream, right? And say like, why can't this happen? So I'd like to do that activity with folks.
Ooh, okay. I love that. Yes. And sometimes it's ourselves holding ourselves back. It's a thing that's outdated holding us back. So I like that. Okay. And then lastly, for this part one would be you have a bunch of first gens hearing you speak. So what would be a mensajito, a little message that you want to share with them as a fellow first gen on this planet Earth?
I want to share that you're allowed to like evolve beyond what others expect of you, or even what you expect of yourself, because we place limits on ourselves. And even like as a first gen, we say, oh yeah, like I want to be a doctor. Yes, that's being a doctor is amazing. What else is there? What's beyond that? Right? Like people think like you've reached a certain pinnacle and then that's it. No, like what's beyond that? So I just want to remind you, and I know I said this, but it's not selfish for choosing yourself. It's actually selfish for you not to put yourself first, because then you don't show up as your best self. And that's not abandonment to anyone else. That's just you being in alignment with yourself.
Yeah. Ooh, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing part of your story. I know there's probably so much more to it, but I hope that today you got to share some pieces that feel important to you. And to those of you listening, let me know what question you would have asked Carlene if you had her in front of me. I would love to know, like, what do you think that I missed or that you would want me to ask her on your behalf? And stay tuned for part 2 with her. We are going to be recording that shortly. So make sure that you share this part with anyone that you think would benefit from it, your friends, your amigas, amigos, amigues. And remember, first gen, that I love you, I love me, and I can't wait for you to love yourself. Bye.
Bye.